Hi, my name is Connor Mead, and I'm here today at the 2016 Canadian Science Policy Conference. And joining me today is Dr. Douglas Wallace, who's the Scientific Director at Neopar. So Douglas, thank you for joining us. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about the good work you're doing at Neopar?
Probably I should say first of all what Neopar is. It's an acronym. It stands for Marine Environmental Observation, Prediction and Response. It's a bit of a mouthful. What we're a national network of centres of excellence funded by the Government of Canada's NCE program. And we focus really on marine risks of the marine environment, all across all of Canada's very diverse and very different coasts. So we kind of focus on four main things really for the future. One is definitely the need for observation of our oceans and of our coastal environment so that we can make predictions, so that we have better predictions of weather forecasting, also to climate forecasting, or forecasting of kind of the development of coastal communities, for example, how they're going to look in the future so we can plan and adapt to change. Another aspects that we work on are very heavily are on shipping and marine operations related issues and risks. So shipping risks of the offshore industry. And finally we have a program focused very much on coastal communities and their vulnerability especially to climate change but also other environmental risks.
Fantastic. So what do you think are some of the primary challenges in driving good research on climate change and on coastal communities in Canada?
Well, a real big challenge is, and what we focus a lot on, is bringing communities together. That can include academic communities from different disciplines, and that's especially a big focus of us, is to bring natural scientists together with social scientists, because all of these societal issues require input from both. And they don't traditionally work together. So we definitely foster partnerships between scientists from different disciplines. But also, we also work hard to get our scientists, who we fund primarily people at universities, but to get them out of the ivory tower into partnerships and into engagement with other communities. And those communities can include actual coastal communities, villages, towns and cities on our coasts, but also communities that share common interests, whether it's fishermen or in particular industries, or of course in the north, our Aboriginal populations who are especially impacted by climate change.
So what do you think is the hardest part or the biggest obstacle in translating the work that you're doing into policy and into public awareness that drives that policy?
Yeah, it's a long path. It's a long path from research, and we fund basic and also applied research, to policy. And generally, a lot of the time, the communities just aren't talking to each other. So we found that to be an area where we've made progress, and we actually fund research where we can see that people have made the effort to make those contacts, because then we think that there's the best chance of the research finding impact in policy. But the other part of it is of course, the people in the universities today are the policymakers of the future. So we have a really big emphasis on training, because in the end, it's training the next generation of people who are going to be working in communities or working in industry to make sure they've got the awareness and understanding of the environmental risks that are present, and they're not just present, but they're changing rapidly, so that they're educated, prepared, aware to deal with them when they're in their future jobs.
So how can we do a better job of training young people and giving them those skills?
Yeah, that's so again, it's partly training them in an environment where they're not just a natural scientist or not just doing social science, but they're training in an environment where they can access to both. And so most of our projects, in fact almost all of them, are like that. They're kind of the students themselves are exposed to different disciplines during the training. And the other aspect, of course, is by making sure that those partnerships with the user communities are there, so that the students themselves are engaging with the communities who are interested in using the research. So that way they start to see it on both sides. Obviously they do have to have a solid kind of scientific training in the skills required there, but they have to also be able to make those skills and those techniques relevant to real communities. And that means they've got to get out of the universities a bit and into the real world.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Wallace, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we really appreciate you having us on.
It's a pleasure.
Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, I will. Thanks.
Excellent.